So welcome to our listening practice where we will learn how to study by yourself. And this is probably one of the biggest difficulties people have normally when they're trying to stay in touch with the English language. That is, studying by themselves or not studying with anybody else. But before we start, I do this listening practice so that you have more contact with the language and you can do small and very easy actions, just like paying attention to the type of verbs that I use, the expressions that I use, the time tenses, grammar structure, and so on. So normally don't get too anxious about understanding 100% of the topic, because the topic is also recorded in Portuguese. However, you can listen to it in English so you can practice your listening skills. And before I tell you a step by step of how to study English by yourself, let's understand what it is. What is to study by yourself? I see this fact of studying by yourself like studying when you don't owe anything to anybody. You're not owing anything to anybody. It's like a type of a contract, a social contract. When you're studying in a school, when you're studying with a teacher, when you're studying with a friend, you have like a social contract that's happening. You're literally focusing or studying with somebody else. So when you study with somebody else, you have like an obligation with that person. You do have a certain obligation to do tasks that you probably need to do in order to learn the language a little bit better. And studying by yourself is the opposite. It's understanding that you don't owe anything to anybody, because you don't owe any homework to a teacher, you don't owe a homework to school or to anybody. So basically, when you study by yourself and you don't owe this, or you don't have this type of contract of doing homework or the obligation to do these types of things, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. And so in the traditional way of learning, and this includes me when I was learning English back in the day, I used to owe many type of things for the teachers. I don't know if you study today in a school, but when I used to study in a school, we used to be obliged of basically delivering homework every day, regardless of the subject that we were going to be watching. And English was one of them. English was one of the subjects that if you were going to do it, you need to make some exercises to practice the latest grammar, to learn new vocabulary, and so on. So it functions this way, and this way it works here. It works like this in normal schools, traditional schools. So in fact, when you do this type of homework and these things, people normally don't understand that they are for their own benefit and for the benefit of their learning process, and this especially happens with English. So what people used to consider like studying by themselves at home, like sitting and saying, I'm doing a homework, I'm doing like an essay or a document that I need to deliver at school, or the exercises, they think that it is something for them, but in fact, it is an obligation with somebody else, because you're going to give that homework or that work to a teacher. That's why you feel this necessity or this need to do the homework, because you need to respond to that other person. So you don't need to feel this type of obligation with somebody else when you're trying to study by yourself. So once you need to study, like the first step or the first thing that you need to understand to study by yourself is understand that you don't owe anything to anybody. You don't need to study for what other is asking from you. You need to study just for the result that you will get. But this is something that normally people who are self-taught they do in a very good and easy way because they like learning, they like understanding how they learn better and so on, and it helps them a lot in this process. So after you understood that, you need to start organizing or defining the best moment of the day for you to study. So the second thing that you're going to do, the first step is understanding that you don't owe anything to anybody when you're going to study by yourself. And the second one is define or choose the best moment of the day that you're going to do it. But this moment of the day, it's a specific moment where you can have a short period of time to help or to do something related to English. You know, don't choose, if you work in a company, don't choose 9 a.m., for example, because 9 a.m. is a time that everybody's wanting to talk to you because you're starting the day, emails, meetings, distractions, and so on. So here, it depends a lot on your agenda. I can't tell you what's the best moment of the day for you to study because literally I don't know what your agenda looks like. So if you say, like, for example, hey, I only work part-time and my work starts at 2 p.m. or I work shifts and I start from 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. or I'm gonna work from midnight to 6 a.m. It depends on you. You just need to follow or find the best moment of the day for you to practice the language, right? So it's important that the time that you're gonna decide or the period of the day, you can have at least 5 to 10 minutes free of distractions. Yeah, no distractions. Nobody telling you what to do, nobody sending you emails, calling you on the phone because they need something. Logically, it's pretty impossible to get zero distractions, but you can choose the moment of the day where the chances of being distracted or getting distracted by somebody else are lower. So when you're going to define the moment of the day, that's step number 2 on how to study by yourself English, you're going to think of this. In what moment of the day do I have less distractions around me? And then you define that moment of the day. After doing that, the third step, you're going to define what to study. Because it's not just literally sitting down and watching a notebook and waiting for the magic to happen. No, you need to define what are you going to study. So in this case, you will choose one of the 4 skills that we normally study or we normally work for or we work on in the language. You work on your listening, your speaking, your reading, or your writing. So you don't need to do every day the same thing, but you can change the skill that you're going to study every day depending on what you want to study or the thing that you need, that you feel is being a difficulty. So you can, for example, study this day or today, since it's a very short session, I'm going to study present, I'm going to study past, future, etc. So here you talk about the type of goal and the skill that you want to study. And believe me, you need to define what you want to study or what you're trying to study, because part of the reason why people don't study every day or don't have contact with language every day, with the language every day, it's because they don't know what to study. Because they don't know what to do. You just open a notebook and you say, okay, what am I going to do now? So if you don't know what to study or you don't know what to do in your daily contact with the language, why would you have that contact? You understand? You understand what I'm saying? So it makes sense. So how do I know what I should study? There's many ways you can know what to study, but I'll give you 2 questions, in fact, that will be the best things for you to understand. What do I need to study by myself? And the question is this, look, pay attention, this is magical. What is your biggest difficulty with the language? So if you answer that question, let's say that you believe that your biggest difficulty with the language is pronunciation, so what you can study in those 5 to 10 minutes is pronunciation. You do pronunciation exercises, repeating what the person says, watching a video and paraphrasing or shadowing, that is a technique, and so on. Or if you believe that your greatest difficulty is grammar, present tense, then you go and make some exercises regarding the present tense. So that's what you choose or what to study. Or you can answer the following question. You can also say like, what am I running from English? What do I run from? Because we run away from things. Normally, we run away from the things that we don't want to do or the things that we don't like doing. So, for example, I run away from working out. It's a fact. I run away from working out. I should work out. I know it's going to bring me some benefits, but I run away from it. I don't know why. So this is the thing that I should work. So if you think, what are you running away from in the language? If you say, wow, I normally run away from having contact with the listening or understanding, watching a TV series in English. If you run away from that, you understand that that is exactly what you should be studying about. So when you're trying to define what to study by yourself, you will define things that you're trying to run away from. So in this case, you need to be a little bit more proactive regarding the language, because remember, you're doing things on your own. You're studying by yourself. You're not studying the things that the school or the teacher tells you. You're studying the things that will for sure bring you more result, because you're defining what's your difficulty and what you need to work on. So it's 3 steps, First step for studying by yourself is understand that you're not owing anything to anybody. You're not doing any homework for your teacher. You're not doing any homework for your school. You're studying because you need that contact with the language to improve your results or your development. Step number 2, you're going to define the best mode of the day where you don't have any type of distractions for you to sit down and study, and that you're going to be less propense for that. And step number 3, you're going to define what to study. To define what to study, you're going to answer the question, what is my biggest difficulty with the language? Or you're going to answer like, what am I running away from in the language? All right. So as a suggestion, I would tell you this. Try to define this the day before. One day before you will do it. When you define that, good. And then we go to the 4th and final step. The 4th and final step is study. Just do it. Like Nike would say, you already defined a schedule. You already know what you should study. The only thing you just need to do is the easiest step of them all. Sit down and do it. Here we go. Here we're going to speak really quickly about consequences. Think of this. A consequence is the action, or a consequence is what precedes an action. So every action you do has a consequence, or action, reaction, right? If you don't study, normally you're not going to feel any straightforward reaction there. There's not going to be any problem. You're not going to lose your job. You're not going to waste your salary, anything, nothing. But there's reactions that are not specific to you. You're going to have second-hand and third-hand reactions. So every time you don't study and you just say like, it's okay, it's not going to happen anything, it's going to be super fine, you will notice that eventually, for not studying 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, you will not have, or you will not be able to achieve the goals that you're trying to reach, So not studying English today by yourself, or not having contact with the language today by yourself, it doesn't bring an immediate reaction. It brings a long-term reaction that can be terrible for your professional, personal, or academic life, So consequences, like some immediate consequence, not immediate, but second-hand consequences could be things like what? You're going to start feeling bad about yourself because you didn't study once again. You said, it's another day that I didn't study. Or third-hand consequences, not getting a promotion at work. You don't see that the moment that you decide to watch Netflix over studying English. So once you understand a little bit better about the consequences or the reactions that it brings, the fact that you didn't study, you will feel the motivation, or if not, well, you decide, Does it make any sense? Does it make sense, my friend? You just need to do that. You need to take control of the reaction that is going to follow the fact of studying or not studying English. The thing is that you're going to control that reaction. You're going to control that. So how do you study by yourself? 4 easy steps. Pay attention. 4 easy steps. First step, understand that you don't owe anything to anybody. You just need to study for yourself and for your result. Step number 2, choose the best moment of the day where you're not going to have any type of distractions to do so. Step number 3, you are going to define what you are going to study. If it's going to be the past, present, future, perfect tense, modals, and so on, always taking into account the 4 skills: speaking, reading, listening, and writing. And finally, step number 4, study. Do it. Just do it like Nike. You did all this process to get over here, and then you just need to do it. Because after that, as a result, you will have something amazing called fluency, or at least the confidence to speak the language the way you want to do it.